So in this video I'm going to go over all the basic operations you would do on MongoDB, such as create, update, insert, delete, query databases and collections within MongoDB. Things you typically would do when you're working with other classical database, relational databases such as Oracle and MySQL and SQL Server. So the first thing I'm going to do is create a database, create a table, which in MongoDB they call collections. Then I'm going to list the tables, drop the tables, insert data into the tables or collections, or actually insert what we call a document in MongoDB, query the table, query the collections, and do your typical multiple row updates or multiple document updates, a single document update. So I'm going to go over each one of those. But first things first is the other thing I'm going to show is I'm going to do this all through the command line and then show you through MongoDB, RoboMongo, the GUI administrative UI, how all the data looks after I've inserted it. So the first thing I'm actually going to do is I install MongoDB, but I need to put the Mongo command line into the path. So what I did was I did exactly that. So this is my install where my MongoDB is. And you could check that out in one of my other videos where I install MongoDB as a Windows service. So I'm just going to bring you over here where, that's where I have all the binaries, and I put it in my path. So when I pull up this DOS window and I navigate to c:temp, and the reason why I'm doing that is because I have a script there that I'm going to call later from the Mongodb shell. So let me go into the shell right now, and I'm gonna create a database. So you actually don't have to create a database if you do use, and this database actually doesn't even exist yet, but I could do use SoccerLeague, and it actually tells me it switched to the SoccerLeague. So I'm just going to go through these steps here that you see. And within the SoccerLeague, I'm going to create a collection called Teams. So create collection Teams. And it says OK, status is 1. I could do the command show collections, and you could see Teams is in there now. And I could also drop the collection. Again, a collection is just what you think of in the classical sense as a table. Though just think of it as, if you're doing any type of programming, it's just a collection as in the collection object. So if I wanted to drop Teams, and bear in mind here that I'm actually writing JavaScript, and I'm actually using kind of JSON syntax when I'm doing this. So in JavaScript, when you have a property and you just type in kind of the property's name, it becomes part of the object. So here I do db.Teams.drop, and if I do show collections again, you'll notice it's gone. So that's how you create and delete a collection. So now that I've deleted it, let me create it again, and you'll see in show collections that exists again now. So I'm going to do something really quickly. I'm going to now add something to the collection. So I'm going to create a variable here, and using JSON syntax, that's the property name, and I'm going to name my team New York Giants, and the other property is what conference are they in, and and they're in the American Conference. So that's the variable, and now when I type in Teams.save, and I'm going to save the variable A, which represents that object. And I'm going to do a bunch of these. So if I do find here, which is querying the whole collection, you'll see that one shows up. However, if, for example, I want to create another one because I want to show you the queries I'm going to do on it, and I'm going to say B. And again, if I query the collection using find, you'll see now I have two objects. You'll see there I have two objects, 78, 79. That's the difference. And MongoDB is going to put a default unique identifier in there, which is going to be globally unique across instances, which is going to be another one of my videos. Is I'm going to chain together a cluster of these and show you how it actually distributes all the data across the clusters. That's in a later video. So I've already gone through creating a document within a collection, or if you want to think of it as a row, but it's not really a row because it could be a hierarchical document that you're saving in the Teams collection. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to query for a very specific kind of object. So the command for that is db.Teams, which is the name of my collection, find, and I'm going to say, and basically I'm going to list the properties that I want to query against. And here it's the properties name, and I want to query and find New York Giants. And as you can see, it found two rows. Now if I try to query for New York Yankees, which doesn't actually exist, you'll notice came back with nothing. So that's how querying works at a basic level. Again, you're just using JavaScript syntax with a JSON representation of the objects. So now that I've gone through insert and querying, let's do an update. So I'm gonna update multiple rows here, and the first parameter is what I'm looking for. So I'm actually looking for anything with the name New York Giants. And that's the first parameter, which is an object, JSON object, and I want to replace it with another name. And I could have easily, actually, let me do this. I am gonna replace it with New York Jets. New York Jets. And also the conference, I'm going to say National League. Conference is national. So that's my second parameter, and my last parameter is the property multiple is true. So again, what this expression is saying is the first parameter, I'm looking for all rows with the name New York Giants, and I'm going to replace the documents who has in that query with the name of New York Giants and the conference Nationals, and I will allow multiple updates. So The multiple update says that it'll only work if I have the includes kind of syntax. Operator. So I'm going to remove that and let's see what it did. So notice at this point it only updated the first row, and it did exactly that. It updated New York Jets and the conference to national. So you could see right there, that's what it did. And again, where I'm actually finding all of this is in the documentation manuals, and there's like CRUD operations. So it explains to you all of these things, but sometimes people don't want to actually read the documentation, which is what I'm here for. And basically showing you what how it actually works. So it actually yelled at me. It didn't like the multiple updates because I actually have to do an operator using one of those $sign operators. So let me do a single update here. And in the single update, I'm going to go by ID. And so I'm going to say underscore ID is object ID. I'm going to change this back to New York Giants. 52A2AADCF097977BEF4E78. And so I am actually going to update this back to New York Giants, and I'm going to leave that conference there as national. So I'm just going to even remove that. So now when I do a find, you can see it's changed back to New York Giants. So that's your single update using the object ID. So let me remove the document now, and removing the document is simply kind of putting what you're going to remove. So I'm going to do name, and I'm going to say New York Giants. And that actually didn't remove anything. Okay, let me try something else here. Okay, so I'm going by ID now, and I'm gonna type in remove, and that looks like it removed it. And there you go. It doesn't have the 78 one. It only has the 79. And if I do db.Teams.count, there's only one, whereas before there was two. So let me remove the second one here. And now if I do count, alright, let's do this db.Teams.find, because that one's actually not the right ID. F4 F07977BF. Okay. Alright, now try it again. Alright, so you notice now when I remove the right ID, the count is 0. So that's how you do a delete. Now I'm gonna do a bulk insert. And I just wanted to show you that I'm in c:"temp, and I have a script file here that has a bunch of, well, first I do the connection, which is just whatever default database I'm in, and I connect to the database SoccerLeague, which I created. And if I go into MongoDB and I hit refresh, notice I now have a MongoDB collection, and I have a Teams table or a collection, well, a SoccerLeague database and a Teams collection, but I don't have any rows anymore because I deleted all of them before. So I'm going to actually do a bulk insert of all of these records that I have by calling this script from the command line. So because I put the MongoDB bin directory in the path, I'm just simply calling Mongo here, and I am going to call the load command load data, and this is relative to the DOS path that I brought up. So I could just call it, you know, from the current directory. Otherwise I would have to do // or /, you know, whatever from the C: relative to where I came in from the DOS path. So that looks like it's done. Now if I go show collections and I do db.Teams.find, see I have a bunch of data now because I loaded this file here via a bulk insert. And if you look here, if I do a refresh, view documents, see I have 16 of them. Indianapolis Colts, Jacksonville Jaguars, and all this comes from this document here. Indianapolis Colts, Jacksonville Jaguars, Buffalo Bills, so Miami Dolphins, Buffalo Bills. So that's how you bulk insert something, or that's how you actually write a script that does something. It doesn't have to be bulk insert. It could be like a loop, iterating through something, you know, some type of processing. So that's just a demonstration of how you load a JavaScript script within the MongoDB shell. So the last thing I wanted to show is just copying the database. So right now I have this name as a SoccerLeague, and I did that on purpose because I really need to rename that to be something else. So I'm going to just do copy database SoccerLeague to Football League, and it's on localhost. Okay, copy copy database is not defined because I should have done db copy database. Copy database object is not a function. Copy database. Okay, so I spelled it wrong. Copy database should be lowercase. And there you go, it's copied. And if I do show DBs, now there's a football league and a soccer league. And if I go back to refresh my RoboMongo, there's 2, and the football league is populated with the same team, same 16 teams. So there you go, that's the demo for kind of like the basic operations, the very basics of MongoDB. Thank you for watching.